I have absolutely loved getting stuck into cyclocross, sometimes actually quite literally, but there are still a few essential skills that I need to master before I toe the start line of a race. So this video is hopefully going to bridge the gap between riding a cross bike, which is really fun, and racing a cross bike, which frankly looks terrifying. Anyway, we've come down to our local cross course and Simon is going to talk me through what he thinks are the essential sections.
To begin with then, Emma, the start line. Now, the start of a cyclocross race is probably going to be quite different to most other racing that you've done before, given that it's full gas straight off the line. So not quite a max sprint, but almost. And the reason being is that it's much harder to move up in a cyclocross race than it is in a road race. So everyone is fighting for the best position straight off the line. So you've got to be prepared to go quite deep. But on the flip side is that most races do settle down relatively soon after the start. Not World Cups, but local races. The key is firstly gear selection. So you want to put it in a gear that is just hard enough that it actually propels you off the line, but it's not so difficult that you're struggling to turn it over. So there's kind of a happy medium, and you only really know through practice, and it'll depend on what surface you're on. So this is quite heavy grass, so it's probably going to be a slightly easier one. But if it's too easy, you'll put your pedal down, you won't really go very far, and then you won't have any momentum when you try and clip your second foot in. Okay, so I'm in about the 23? No, hang on a minute. 25, I'm in. 25, 40.
You're 3 from the top, that's where I am. But I think I have slightly bigger set than you, so I'm gonna go to...
Right, okay. Then you want to put your lead leg forward, so whichever your leg that you're going to be riding in your attack position, and then it's simply a case of going for it. The one bit of advice I would say is that if you don't clip in first time round, don't worry about it. Some people stop pedaling and try and get their foot in. That's definitely a bad thing. So my tip, if you miss your foot, is actually to then sit in the saddle, you keep pedaling with the leg that is clipped in, and then just wait until there's a moment where you can clip in. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Ooh.
I found the start of races in road racing was the worst bit for me. Like I would be really stressed on the start line, and the calmer I could be, like neutral section was my nightmare. So I'd rather. I don't think starting gently is going to be a great approach to cyclocross racing though, because they're quite short. So maybe I should.
Think of it like this. You know, if you're lapping at the same speed as the leaders, which ideally that's what you're going to be doing, then if you've penalised yourself by starting slowly and you've lost 3 minutes in your first lap, you are going to be going around 3 minutes behind the leaders. Yes. So what you want to do is make sure that you don't have to go faster than the leaders early on, right, in order to catch up. Now, before we leave the start completely, Emma, one last thing actually, looking at this particular start straight, in that if you have the choice when lining up at the grid, either front or back, is to actually have a look, and in this case particularly, you've got short, fast grass over there and thick, long, tufty grass over here. And so if you start on that side of the start straight, you will have a significant advantage to if you start on this start straight. And so, I mean, it's particular to individual courses, but it's always worth having a look and bearing it in mind. Next up, Emma, steep stuff. Now, cyclocross courses always seem to have steep ups and steep downs in. And so it's one of those skills that you've got to be able to absolutely nail. Firstly, so you can get around safely, and secondly, so you can get around quickly. In terms of going up though, you're absolutely right in that if you get stuck halfway, it's really bad. So there's kind of a bit of an unwritten rule, which is if you can only ride something 80% of the time, right, then you should run it every time, because the amount of time that you lose from getting stuck halfway and then desperately trying to get off your bike and then restart again, yeah, will completely offset any time that you save on those other 8 times. The first question you've got to ask yourself is whether or not it is actually rideable. And so in order to make it rideable, It might be that you've got to consider getting as much momentum as you can coming into it. So maybe if there's a corner beforehand, you take like a wide line so that you've got more time to accelerate into it. And then you also want to choose a gear that means that you kind of avoid changing gear when you're really leaning on it halfway up. So that might mean pedaling in at a really fast cadence and then trying to extend it up the bank. But yeah, you certainly don't want to be stalling halfway up, trying to change gear and then getting off and running.
And keep your weight on the saddle to keep the traction on the back wheel?
Well, that's a good question actually. It depends really, because you'll obviously get more power out of the saddle, but then you will have less traction as you sit at the back. So on something like this, you probably want to get as much momentum as you can at the bottom and then be in a gear where you can kind of be in the saddle as you're getting towards the top to really weight the back wheel. Right then, Emma, this is the bit that you've been super excited about and looking forward to, the steep downs. The cool thing about most cyclocross steep downs, I guess, is that you've not often got quite a bit of runoff. And so the thing to remember is that you're often as safe staying off your brakes as you are going on them, because if you're not braking, you've got less chance of sliding out. So not completely, obviously, because if you barrel down and you've got too much momentum to get around the corner, then you're screwed. But the principle's there, is that sometimes going a little bit faster is actually better than if you're going really slowly. Otherwise, I'd say get on the drops, that's really important. Then you've got the most control that you've got, and then get your weight as far back as possible off the seat behind it, pedals level, and away you go.
Right, the attack position.
The attack position, not too much front brake because it's so slippy today, like, you know, you could feel the front start to slide.
Yep.
But like I say, you could just roll down this with no problem at all. Because this comes immediately after a hill that we're probably going to be pushing up, what you want to avoid is still trying to be getting on your bike as you get to the steep bit and then you start flapping around. So in the worst case scenario, and it won't come to this, but you'd want to stop the bike to make sure that you're in control before going down.
Yeah, I'm still not quite, oh no, just about. Right, I totally forgot to get on the drops there. I was so busy trying to get on the saddle and get clipped in, of which I have no chance anymore because there's so much mud involved. So this time I'll try getting on the drops.
So yeah, maybe give it another go, see how it feels.
Okay.
Nice! Yeah, nailed it!
Right, I'm quite chuffed. I've done that descent twice now and not fallen off once. But I didn't clip in with my right foot at all for about a minute there because I had so much mud everywhere. Yeah,
well, you very quickly, particularly when the conditions are like this, you get a lot of mud on the bottom of your shoes, don't you?
Yeah.
A cheeky little tip is actually before, well, not necessarily before you try and clip in, but at points on the course, you could give your foot a little bit of a tap and then it's a fairly rudimentary technique, but you'll clear a lot of mud out. Next up, sand. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure why cyclocross races have become synonymous with sand pits. Probably, I guess, because some of the best cross races in the world take place on courses where it's naturally sandy, but because of that, race organisers will often put in like a sand pit to race through, and I'm glad they do because they're really good fun. But there is a definite technique to it that you should add to your armoury.
Right, so what's the technique? This sand looks deep and it looks just like bulky, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is part of it. You've got so much resistance when you're riding through sand that your bike just wants to slow down. So the key is, as with all cross, momentum. So you want to try and conserve your momentum as far into the sand as possible.
Yep.
Then the other problem is that your front wheel often wants to wash out in the sand. And if it does, you'll generally stall and then have to get off and run. The best way to go through a sand pit is to follow the rut, okay? So you'll generally find that there'll be maybe 1 or 2 ruts on the entrance to the sand pit, and those are the ones you want to ride on because the sand is compacted.
Yep.
The problem with ruts is that they tend to disappear about halfway through the sand because people then start to lose momentum and their front wheels wander. So there are more exits to a sand pit than there are entrances.
Right.
Going one step back, the technique actually on the bike. So as well as having as much speed as you can get, you want to keep your weight back.
Yep.
So on the hoods, and then weight sat in the saddle, probably as far back on the saddle as you can.
Okay.
And then I would use a slightly bigger gear perhaps, just to keep my cadence down a little bit, so maybe more like 70s as opposed to 80s. And then I find that gives me a little bit of something to push against on the bike, so I feel I can keep control a bit better. But ultimately you do sort of have to let the bike go where it wants to go a little bit. All right, find King Rut, here he is.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of sand already.
I reckon if you just commit to it, because
yes, commitment is
you're unlikely to have any kind of nasties.
Well, yeah, I just don't like getting sandy.
Well, think of it this way, the faster you get out the sandpit,
the less likely
the less time you'll spend in sand.
Of course, the golden rule about riding through sand is you need to clean your bike pretty well afterwards, as you'll know, because your drivetrain will be telling you very loudly. So I think the way of riding sand is just to be bloody stubborn-minded and kind of get angry with it and just keep pushing.
Another cyclocross skill totally nailed, Emma. Nice work.
Thank you, that's a very generous description, nailing it.
Well, whatever way, you are more than ready to line up at a cyclocross race. I mean, the cool thing about cross races is that you don't need to be ready as such, you just need to turn up and pin a number on, that's the hardest bit. But I think you'll do great.
Definitely don't feel ready, but I mean, how bad can it be? It looks like it's kind of fun, as long as I don't get in too many people's way. I don't want to make anyone cross.
But the thing is though, like you can't get in anyone's way because you've got a number on your back, the same as everyone else. You've paid the same amount of entry fee as everyone else. So, you know, it's racing, isn't it? If you're in someone's way, it's kind of their fault for letting you get in their way.
Yeah.
I think so anyway. Like, you know, because at local races, you get a lot of, you know, people being lapped and, you know, different categories on the course at the same time. So everyone should race with a certain amount of good grace because at the end of the day, you know, it is fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what people do on a Saturday or a Sunday, isn't it? So yeah, I definitely don't think you should stress about that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff. I'm looking forward to it as well.
I've enjoyed learning, and if you've enjoyed watching, give us a thumbs up. You can check out the previous videos by clicking down here.